Good morning. Welcome to another episode of the EdTech webinar series hosted by your EdTech team, Karina, Kyle, and myself, Kenneth. Today, I'm very excited to be sharing Desmos with you. Desmos is a web-based graphing calculator, but it has an absurd number of features. For this webinar, we will be covering the following. We will explain what Desmos is and identify the different calculators available in Desmos. We're going to demonstrate some of the activities available for distance learning, and we're going to walk through setting up a class and sending out an activity. So let's get started with a bit of information about what Desmos is. So Desmos, what is Desmos? Desmos is an interactive calculator with hundreds of activities spanning from elementary math to calculus. There are a couple calculator types available. Right away we can see this is the Desmos homepage, and let's pop that open right here. We have the graphing calculator option here. This is the primary calculator that most people use. And down here we have a couple of other options. We have the 4-function calculator and the scientific calculator. The 4-function calculator is very basic, just the 4 major math operations. The scientific calculator has everything you would need to go from elementary math all the way up to pre-calculus, with the exception for graphing, which you would need the graphing calculator, which looks like this. This is a full-featured graphing calculator. If you've ever used a TI-84 or an 89, this can do all of the same features. Click this little keyboard, and so we can insert functions. We can try to do trigonometry, statistics, distribution graphs, and other items as well. So this is a fully featured graphing calculator. Let's jump back over here. So back to the Desmos homepage at desmos.com. We also have the teacher classroom activities. We'll come back to this in a second. And we have Learn More, learn.desmos.com. Let's go ahead and take a look here. This has a variety of activities available to assist teachers with learning how to use any of the calculators. These are also available to students. And so if we just click, for example, the graphing calculator option, we have some information on how to use the graphing calculator to its fullest. If we scroll down, we get information on how to do everything from basic functions to derivatives. We can list, we can do integrals, regressions, summations, statistics. Everything that you would want to learn how to use on this calculator is available here. Let's go ahead and click one. Let's try the trigonometry one and learn Desmos trigonometry. So this section has videos and it has activities available to teach you how to do things using that graphing calculator. It's a very useful resource for teachers and students alike. Let's return to the Desmos homepage. So come up here and go to desmos.com. And now let's go to the classroom activities. Here we can see the main classroom activities page. You can see what is offered plus testimonies from other teachers here regarding meaningful feedback, collaboration, and a need to know for challenges. Notice that you can click each of these buttons here to be taken to the activity that is presented. Here we go. Let's take a look over here on the left. On the left side here, we have all the different types of activities that are available. At the top we have the home page, and under that we have most popular. Let's take a look at some of the most popular activities. Here are some excellent activities. We can see the top one is called Will It Hit the Hoop? And from the tags we can see that it is distance learning friendly and it is covering quadratic equations. Further down we can see other tags, for example, Marble Slides Lines. This activity covers not only distance learning but also functions and linear functions. We have Marble Slides Parabolas, which is also distance learning friendly, but this one covers quadratic functions and transforming functions. Let's take a look at the first activity, Will It Hoop? So in this activity we can see right away that the description of the activity plus additional information is available at the top. You can get translations into French or Russian, as well as Spanish, Hebrew, and Portuguese. And there's information here on it. This is a YouTube video that explains how to convert this application to use metrics, the metric system of measurements instead of the U.S. imperial system of measurements. A little bit at the top here, we can see that what is compatible with this activity. We can see that it is mobile friendly and is laptop friendly, and it struggles a little bit with some older iPads. If we just hover over this warning, we can see approximately how long this activity will take, about 30 to 45 minutes. And it was created and authored by Desmos creative team. If we scroll down a bit, these are some related activities that might be useful to either do before or after this activity. Under that, we have the classes section. We will come back to this in just a little bit. And then we have the screen section, which is really a preview section. These are all the different screens that a student might see. We can see this button right here, Student Preview. In this Student Preview, if we click it, we get an idea of what the student is going to see. And so this is the first slide that the student will see. Drag the black points to create a line that models the blue points. The student would then grab one of these and drags it along like this. And they would have to move these points until they match up and hit the blue lines, as you can see here. As you can see, it's very intuitive and it's fairly interactive. Down here we can see teacher moves. This is a section for the teacher to take a look at what they can be doing to guide their class through this activity on this particular slide. If we click next and go to a different one, we have additional information on the next slide, but we also have a tab that's called Sample Responses. This is an example of what a student might respond with. And so here we have an open-ended question that can be asked. So this question is asking about what will happen to the basketball, whether or not this line is predicting if it's just going to keep going on forever, and the student is expected to respond accordingly. And so they would type out their response here. In a lot of these free-form responses, they have this option here, which is Type Math. If the student clicks that, they can then do things like exponents and that sort of thing to get students going. Oops, didn't mean to close that. If we go a little bit further, we have multiple choice questions as well. We have the video here. So this is a video that plays. We can see what's happening. It pauses, and then it asks the student a question, and they need to answer before they can continue. So we'd say out, we'd hit submit, and then the student would be able to continue. And so from here we can see that there is about 30 different slides, including extensions, and the student will go through each one of these. Further down, we have an accessibility section. So this accessibility section addresses students with accessibility needs. For example, this activity is not screen reader friendly, so we recommend pairing visually impaired students with a sighted classmate. This is particularly useful if you have any students with IEPs. So let's take a look at a different activity. So let's go back up here. So at the top we're going to come back to the left here where it says activities here, most popular. And let's take a look at the Marble Slides Parabolas one. So once again we can see it's created by Desmos. It is 45 to 60 minutes long. Hovering over this tag, we can see that the distance learning, let's close that real quick. Hovering over this, we can see the distance learning is available here. We'll come back to that in a second. Quadratic functions, transforming functions are the topics. We can see that this is not as mobile friendly, so this is not a recommended activity for phones, but it is okay with tablets and with laptops. And again, we have translations to French, Russian, and Dutch. If we scroll down a bit, we can come back here, we can take a look at this preview. And I want to show you this one because it does a really good job of showing the interactivity of this. So this is the first slide, let's hit launch. And this is a nice game. And so students can become very involved with these types of games and challenges. In this case here, the goal is to make these marbles hit all of the stars. So we go to the next one. So in this case here, the student is required to adjust this parabola so that the marbles hit all of the stars. We have information here telling us to encourage students to change a single sign at a time in order to adjust the parabola and figure out how it moves. Under sample responses, we have a sample answer that will actually work. So let's insert a negative sign here. And we can see that if we click launch, all of our stars are hit and the student gets a nice fun little success button there, and then they can continue to the next slide. So let's go to move forward here. I'm going to go back here, and at the top, instead of going to most popular, let's go to view all activities, and we can see here there are dozens of activities that are available, and they cover a range of topics including algebra, algebra 2, calculus, as well as grade 6, grade 7, grade 8. And you'll notice that all of these items here start with distance learning. And so Desmos has created collections for all the major grades and topics in math, and these are all distance learning friendly activities. And so if we go to, for example, to grade 7, this is a collection of activities that are very useful for distance learning and that cover grade 7 mathematical concepts. Now that we've taken a look at what activities are available, we need to create an account. To do that, in the upper right hand corner you have the large green create account button. So let's go ahead and click that button real quick, and we get a nice clean pop-up. And I do recommend signing in with Google. If you do not have a Google account, or you prefer not to link your Google account to Desmos, then you can go ahead and sign up using just your name and email, and then setting up a password and hitting create account. For me, I'm going to go ahead and sign up with Google though, so I'll click that. We'll get a nice little pop-up here, and we'll go ahead and select my main username. There we go, and immediately we're signed up. That's all there is to account creation. It's very straightforward. In the upper right hand corner we can see that my name is now present instead of the sign in and create account buttons. If we click the drop down, we have some information. Here is my email. We can very quickly go to the Learning Desmos section where we can find information if we're needing to learn a little bit more about one of the calculators. We have Desmos Labs, which we'll cover momentarily, and we have account settings. So now that the account is created, let's come back to the home page. And right at the top we have a little bit of a banner here, and this is slightly new information. And so we have featured collections here. If we scroll down a bit, we have featured activities, and then at the very top we have a nice banner that's in response to COVID-19, responses for distance learning and tips for getting started. These are great places to start. And we also have webinars that are available, and these have been going and being updated fairly recently. Let's take a look at that real quick. So we can go to the webinars. We have essentials, we have beginning activities, we have advanced building activities, and this covers a huge gambit of topics. So we have introductory series, recent webinars, we have teachers talking about their experiences. For example, here is Wendy Batty talking about parent communication during school closure, maintaining class community during school closure. And so these are all various webinars available, all on demand. So I do encourage you to look at those. They're very well put together and well done. Let's go back to our home page real quick. So you can go back, or if you ever get lost, you can always just go to teacher.desmos.com, and that will also take you to your main teaching page right here. Let's go to move forward. So on the left you'll notice that we have a new section. Instead of saying home, most popular, and then featured collections, we now have a year activity section where our collections, our custom activities, and our history of previous classes that have been assigned activities is available. Let's go ahead and start with the collections options. So right now we don't have anything available because we haven't done anything. We haven't started any classes. If we go to custom activities, we haven't created any activities. We haven't assigned any classes. So let's go ahead and get started with that. And to do that we need to find an activity. So let's go back to the most popular activities. And let's just do that first Wilt Hoop option. And in the upper right hand corner you'll notice that there's a nice plus sign right here. Let's click that, and we have the option to add it to a collection. We don't have any collections set aside yet, so let's create one. We just hit that new collection button, and let's title it. I'm going to title this Quadratics. And then we have some share settings. We can make it so that anybody with a link can access this collection, or we can just make it private if I don't really want to share it. And then we just hit create collection. You can include a description if you wanted to. Now we have a collection option, Quadratics. We need to click it first to select it. And by doing that, you'll note that it implies we can add this activity to multiple collections. That is the case. We just have the one collection though, so let's turn it on. We want it saved in quadratics. We hit saved, and that's it, automatically done. At the top, you'll notice that it has our collection right here. This is telling us that this is now in our collection quadratics. If we go to our collections at the left-hand side, we can see now that we have our new collection that we created. It has one activity, and here's our activity. And so the benefit of doing this is that as you're browsing through the dozens and dozens of activities, when you find something that is useful for your class and your students, you can quickly grab it and add it to a collection. Or if a collection doesn't yet exist, it's very simple and straightforward to create a collection that fits whatever your groups of students are. That can be by topic, it can be by grade band, or it can be by just whatever class you're working with at that time. So let's talk about sharing activities with students. So in order to assign content to students, we need to select an activity. Here we happen to have what hit the hoop, so let's go ahead and select that. And let's scroll down a bit. And here we have the classes section, as we discussed previously. So we're going to now come back to this and hit create class code. And we can see that immediately there's a class code that is generated. It tells us how many students are currently running that class, when it was created, and we have the option to view a dashboard. And these three dots open up some extra information. We can archive this class if we're done with it, or we can look at the student link. So pretty much this class code link, this view dashboard, and this student link option are all going to take you to the same basic area. I'll just click class code right now. There we go. And we are taken to this screen. So this screen is information on how to share this activity with our students. We can instruct students to go to student.desmos.com. It is student, not students, and that is often a mistyped a typo that occurs with students, but it is student.desmos.com, and they type in the class code GGAP2J, and that'll take them to this class. Alternatively, they can just be shared this link, and so we can copy this link, and by copying that link and pasting it into, say, a chat function, right away then students can click on the link and be taken to this activity, which right now, with everything being distance learning, is perhaps your more efficient way of sharing with students. Once that link is shared with students and they begin working on it, you'll see their names populate here, and I'll demonstrate that in a moment. And we can see at a glance our teaching dashboard. We can anonymize data. This is particularly useful if we want to share student activities in front of the class and say, here's how we're doing as a class. We can look at pacing, and we can look at each of the slides independently if we really needed to. And so here are the responses that have been put in yet, and we can create an overlay as well. So let's take a look at that student link. I'm going to open a new tab, and we're going to go to that student link. Here it is. Okay, let's enter a name. I'll enter here we'll just enter a fun name here. We'll call it Max Grade. There we go. That's my go-to temporary student. Hit go. There we are. And right away we can begin the activity. So I'm just going to go through, hit next. I'm going to answer things here. Put Gray Fox. Share with the class. Next, etc. So this right here, let's come back to the teaching dashboard here, or the activity here. And let's go ahead and click the summary at the top. We can see now that we have a student, max grade. They didn't really do anything. We have a little X in this first one. They did complete this one, so we can click on this and we can see how they responded. They responded to the quick gray box, and we can look at that information. Now, I am signed in, and so when I went to create the student account, it didn't ask me to. But if you are not signed in, so let's try that link again, but this time on a blank tab, it will give us some extra options. So we have the option to sign in with Google or with Desmos, or continue without signing in. If a student chooses to continue without signing in, their work is not saved to come back to later. It is saved for you as their teacher, and so if they're going to do it in one sit down, that's fine. Otherwise, it is encouraged that students create some sort of Desmos account. That way they can pause and come back to the work at a later point in time. go ahead and move forward to. So we've talked about sharing with students. Oh yes. So next, let's go back to the teacher homepage here. So I'm just going to go again, teacher.desmos.com. And over here with collections and custom, let's click on history off to the left here. And you can see now we have a history. And the history, this is where you go to access your classes. Here's the class that we were just working on when it was created. We can click on it real quick and be taken to the teaching dashboard. And so if you have multiple, we can exit out of that. If we have multiple classes that we're using the same activity with, this is a good location to find that information. And that pretty much wraps up our session. Let's take a look here at what we went over. So once again, the objectives were to explain what Desmos is and identify the different calculators on Desmos. So Desmos again is a very interactive, fully operational and fully fledged graphing calculator that's web-based. It is available on pretty much every platform that will run a modern browser. So the vast majority of mobile devices, tablets, laptops, computers, and actually also smart boards often will allow the use of Desmos as long as they can access a web browser. The different calculators available in Desmos are the 4-function, very basic calculator, the scientific calculator, and the graphing calculator. We went through some of the activities and what the capabilities of Desmos are. Now obviously we showed some very high level activities. Not all activities are at that same level, but that is definitely what Desmos is capable of. And we went through how to set up a class where you just create that create account button in the upper right hand corner to create your account or sign in. And then all you do is you go to an activity and then you click that button that says generate class code. Okay, let's recap that real quick here. So once again, we find an activity that we like. Let's just do this one. And then you just hit create class code. And there you go, we've got that class ready to go. And to share it out, we hit view dashboard or the class code or share student link, and we share that information out by going to student.desmos.com, and we give students this code or we just send them this link. Either way works. And that pretty much wraps it up. Let's see if there's any questions from our audience. Cool. No questions from the audience. Alright, so let's go ahead and move forward. Next week, we will be talking about learning management systems. So stay tuned next week. It's going to be really exciting. Have an excellent day.